headquarters in Abuja. The demonstration of the machines was done indoors. And to COVID-19 update, as at 27th September, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control confirmed 126 new cases of COVID-19 in the country. The breakdown shows that the cases were recorded in 11 states, including the FCT. Total confirmed cases now stand at 58,324. Discharged 49,794, while 1,108 persons have died from the virus. Those are the stories we have for you at this time. Thanks for your time.
Welcome to a new edition of What Matters. I am Nneka Michael and pleased to have your company. Here is what is coming up in the next 30 minutes. Galadimawa community prays to escape 2020 flood disaster. Food shortage imminent with flood. Impact of flood on lives and economy. And ways to achieve ideals of peace in society. Do you still remember the 2018 flood at Galadimawa roundabout that took the lives of a father, also destroyed properties? The Galadimawa community have lived in caution ever since that incident happened.
Galadimawa roundabout is a four-route roundabout connecting Area 1, Airport Junction, Lokogoma and Galadimawa community. In late 2018, heavy flood around this area swept away a man, his car. Ever since that incident, the Galadimawa community has lived in remembrance of that event.
Experiencing flood in this community is along this our river by the roundabout there. Normally, in every year, we always experience some flood, and usually affect people there. But thank God this year, we seem to be free, because though we are not yet free yet, because rain is still falling.
The community has also engaged residents and commuters on the dangers of flood in order to avoid a reoccurrence.
We have been advising people to be watchful, to avoid such incident anymore. If we can remember, some 2 years back, the incident happened that took away one director there. And since then, we have been very careful, advising people to be watchful.
Human efforts has been deployed to act as early warning signs to safeguard lives during any flood eventuality.
Presently, we have detailed people around that place, making sure that anytime it rains and it seems to be like it will affect us, then they will alert us in time, so that we make sure that when people are passing by, not to enter into such incident. And that's what we have been doing around.
Numerous economic activities are carried out around the area because of vehicular traffic. Those who engage in these activities are mostly residents of Galadimawa community who earn a living from what goes on around this area. But these means of livelihood are easily affected by flood.
It normally affects our economic activities in the sense that those passing by could not able to pass again, and then it will delay for some hours before water wash away so that we give way to people to pass. So we normally have such type of experience from time to time. Our market women and men, those having business along the road, it normally affects them.
This fall, before all of them by then, the whole village they fall, and NEPA all fall, and then seriously, even kill some people for this primary school here. So by then, my own side for my house, you just shake my house and just commode the ceiling and something. But then I don't have any experience for that and the residents again.
The community is still advocating for a lasting solution to the perennial flood in their environment.
What we have been advising is that they should look into that very place and see, because the culvert, to my own observation, the culvert that the water used to flow and is very narrow, very small. If the government can do something to expand it so that the water will be passing freely, then it will avoid accumulating that water, so that to avoid people from to stop people from passing nearby. I believe that will ease the flowing of that water to pass away, not to accumulate in that very particular place.
And with a month left, following the warnings on flood by relevant agencies in the country, Galadima community as well as commuters along this area will continue to adhere to the sensitization given on flood disaster.
We hope the Galadimawa community will be spared from this year's flood. There has been lots of rain this year, leading to flood devastating communities and farmland. What are Nigerians saying about the impact on agriculture?
Agriculture is one of the oldest occupations practiced by man to survive and keep his environment productive. In Africa and Nigeria in particular, small-scale farming is a common practice engaged by people in the rural areas, first as a means of survival and for economic purposes.
If you have to grow economy, you have to take into consideration the SME, small and medium enterprises, the small-scale farming. I think they are all-inclusive because this helps to build up the IGR, the GDP of government. If you go across, we have about 774 local governments in Nigeria. There are farmers that most times you don't even capture them in the database. All of their output, if you put it together, it's a huge plus to the economy of this nation.
As the largest employer of labor and mainstay of the economy, agriculture provides food that are consumed daily, but perennial flood that is experienced every year poses a huge threat to agriculture as well as food security.
Flood is a very big threat. I think there's an arm of government that is tasked with the responsibility of handling flood, environmental degradation, which is caused by flood. Flood has a way of reducing this output, which I mentioned initially. If you go to communities, I saw one on the television recently in Imo State, where flood just swept out a very big chunk of the land. Of course, you can't have any agricultural output there. The farmers, if you have a farm there, you can't have any yield. It's going to be waste of capital. The money that was invested to plant crops there, you waste it. The effort is wasted. At the end of the day, there's no food, there's no output. So it's affecting the whole agricultural value chain.
It has dealt a very big blow on agriculture. And if care is not taken, we may have food crisis next year, even before next year, if care is not taken.
Climate change is a global phenomenon that is sweeping across nations, from bushfires to hurricane and volcano to pandemic. Agriculture has not been spared by these disasters.
On our own part, we individuals, we have created this flooding on ourselves because water we always find is level. blocking the waterways, building on areas that are not supposed, buildings are not supposed to be built. So these are deliberate human error. A deliberate human error. So we should have averted this crisis if we had listened to the policies of government. Don't build on waterways. Don't throw debris. Don't throw debris on channels. But we will not accept. We will not listen. Any debris we have, we'll go and throw it in the water channels, build on water channels. So the water we have to find its level.
Most small-scale farmers are poor and operate with low implements that do not increase productivity. But their large number, arable land, and hard work have assisted in giving large production of food. Flood affects roads, displaces homes, including economic activities. It is also threatening government intervention to boost agriculture using the Anchor Borrowers Program. Despite government support to cushion the effect of COVID-19 and flood on the farmers, some farmers may not be able to reach out to appropriate bodies for assistance due to lack of education and awareness.
One of the ways is the government assistance. To checkmate flood is so capital intensive. Most farmers, like some of these low farmers, you don't expect them to either checkmate or to handle erosion menace. Erosion is so expensive to handle, that is why government has to come in.
One of the things they should do is to make sure that people do not build where on erosion, where water is supposed to passage of water. They make sure people do not build, because some build and blocked, there's blockage. And when the water to flood, there will not be way for the water to pass, and it consists a lot of problem. And government also should make sure that they make a drainage, appropriate drainage where water can easily pass, and make sure people do not build along the drainage, not to stop the passage of water.
The government that is tasked with the responsibility of flood, checkmating flood, must be monitored. They must be held accountable. Where there are floods, they should be notified, and it should be followed up. And those who are already working on it should be monitored. Sometimes they carry jobs that are not of quality, good quality. And the next flood that comes sweeps everything away. So those that are also doing the job should do a quality job. Where your construction, you're building, gutters or channels that ought to take floods and direct it to a particular corner, should be done with very quality materials, so that at the end of the day, the aim is achieved.
We cannot leave the government alone on this issue. We as individuals, we do our own bit. You understand? We do our own bit. Don't build on the waterways. Don't throw dirty into the canals. So if those things are done, then you can see again this dredging. You see, people just, if you go to the coastal area, Lagos, some part of Delta, Bayelsa, all the coastal areas, you see people dredging lands without taking into cognizance the after effects of the dredging.
To mitigate future flood on farmlands, farmers and crops, stakeholders must begin early sensitization on the farmers.
Unfortunately, this year's flood is likely to impact negatively on food security, including government intervention on agriculture. We need to redouble our efforts and support on food production now. We'll go on a break. What Matters continues in a moment. You're welcome back. This is still what matters. Our lives are not spared with the flood. So in what ways are we being affected?
Flooding has had one of the most serious and wide-reaching impacts on the Nigerian economy, being the biggest economy in Africa, with a population of over 200 million people. One of the main causes of Nigeria's flooding problem is man-made, which is mostly associated with bad planning.
When you look at it, we don't have better drainage system in Nigeria, anywhere. And the sanitation system we have been embarking on before, where you see every month people will embark on their sanitation, then clean floods and the whole drainages. We don't do it anymore. The federal government has stopped it. So my own advice is, if they can go back to that environmental sanitation they do every month, it will help a lot. It will go a long way in minimizing or reducing the flood system in Nigeria.
Human and animal lives are lost during flood, and it has been a burden on health facilities in the country, especially as it affects children under the age of 5.
It comes with all these diseases, waterborne diseases. It comes with cholera. It affects the citizens, so it has negative effect on our health.
There have been warnings from the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency against the consequences of flood in some states in the country, following the 2020 weather prediction by the Nigerian Meteorological Agency. More than 5 states and some local government areas have been affected by flood. Various economic holdings and activities have also been affected in these places.
Like this year in the northern region, we're supposed to have bumper harvest of rice production. But half of Kebbi State, Kano State, Jigawa State, Bauchi State, Kogi State, North Central, Northwest have been flooded. They have been flooded and people are homeless, people are jobless, they've lost their source of means of agriculture. The agricultural produce have been destroyed. People have lost their source of livelihood, and in turn it will affect the GDP of the country. Because Nigeria, this effort of government to diversify the economy has been affected drastically.
The lives of the inhabitants have been affected. The houses being thrown away by water. You go to houses now, you see water going into the houses, destroying the cash crops, killing people, carrying people. So I think it has a lot of bad effect on the economy.
In so many areas, our farmland are being eroded. All the cash crops are dead. And that's why you see things are expensive now. Because, these things is happening coupled with, the natural one, Boko Haram, all those things. So those are the things that they are affecting the agriculture, the economy. Because, when these things happen, the end result is that it will affect the produce. So all our products, in the farm are dead. The erosion will, the flood will erode them. So, and, it causes a lot of economic setback for the country.
There is much attention given to flood now, which seems to look as if a dark goat is being chased in the night. The citizens look more sensitized now in the midst of the flood, whereas this should have been the case at the beginning of the year.
There should be jingle sensitization campaign annually to the people, because people need to be reminded about there are many challenges facing people. So government must create jingles to give people awareness that this year we are going to experience flood. You that are in this lowland area or you are in waterways, make sure that you pack to the island.
It would require force to evict environmental defaulters whose economic activities are compounding the flood, because that is their only means of livelihood.
If all of us do what is needful, clear your gutter in front of your house. Where I stay now, we are spending a lot of money to build the gutter. Make sure that the sewage is, is free. Water can flow freely, so that we don't block the places where canals are supposed to stay. Some people, they'll go and build house on top of canal. And before you know it, it will cause problem in the whole of that area. There will be flood. It happened in so many states. Some people, they will go and build petrol station where they are supposed to be canal. They go and build station there. They will pay heavily to bribe to build station there, instead of them to, to make sure that that place is a canal. You don't cheat nature. Because when nature will fight, you can't stop it.
One, we must change the way we live. We must change the way we treat our environment. Understand? We must make sure we keep our drainages clean. We must make sure that the waterways, we didn't build houses on the waterways. And secondly, make sure we continue planting trees.
The government has always been proactive in sensitizing the people on the danger of flood and how to mitigate the disaster. But this time around, it would require more engagement with the people so as to guarantee them of their means of livelihood.
Early sensitization will bring the desired solution, and it has to be highly engaging with the people. Every 21st of September is set aside by United Nations to observe the International Day of Peace, to strengthen the ideals of peace by observing 24 hours of non-violence and ceasefire. The day was first celebrated in 1982, and everyone around the world is expected to promote global peace. Our interview segment focuses on how to achieve peace in our society. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Ubong. What are the ideals of peace?
Ideal peace is a concept that is utopic, but I'll be speaking from the perspective of military historian, and in which we don't look at peace in the context of peace, but peace in the context of security. That means before you talk about peace, you should talk about security, because peace is only seen within the context and the attainment of security. So in that context, you're looking at ideal peace, you'll be talking about an ideal security, which from a normative standpoint should actually be spread upon two aspects. That's a binary. That means the peace should be, the peace in the context of security should be the absence of violence.
How can the ideals of peace be achieved?
Yes, it can be achieved. The first thing is that it is the responsibility of the government, because of the weight of the concept we are considering. The government has the full responsibility of making this possible. Yes, we have the part of the citizens on which you hear things like security is everybody's business, but first of all, the custodian of that value or system is the government itself. What I mean is that to achieve this, the government must be not just in a state of readiness, but have the capacity and capability to enforce this. First of all, when you look at the first aspect, which is the absence of direct violence, which is the absence of war, then we go straight to emphasize that the government holds the monopoly of violence, or should hold this time the monopoly of violence, or should be the custodian of the monopoly of violence. That means for the instrument of violence that has to do with direct violence, the government should be the one to have that kind of power to take care of that. But when the government now share this power or this capacity with other non-state actors or social entrepreneurs of violence, it becomes questionable for the government. And for the other aspect, which is the absence of indirect violence, which is we have structural violence and cultural violence, yes, for the provisions of such development indices like unemployment, like issues of employment or poverty or inequality, it behoves on the government to make the society stable and balanced by making sure these things are available at all times.
Please tell us, what are the causes of violence in our society?
Now, for the causes of direct violence, you have snowball effects from the causes of indirect violence. Causes of indirect violence are easy to see: issues of unemployment, inequality, poverty. and resource sharing, national and natural resource sharing, and even the inequitable balancing of the political and social system. And when these issues cannot be addressed, the citizens or the members of that political community in the context of Nigeria, Nigerians are now involved into seeking their own security. So the basics is that when citizens now take it upon themselves to seek security for themselves or to attain their own security, rather than rely on the government to provide them with that security, then we have the causes of all what we are looking at in the context of direct violence, war, or indirect violence.
Peace is paramount for peaceful coexistence, and we must all work towards it. That is how far we can go today. Thank you for your time, and remember, you can join us next week for more interesting topic. Stay safe to stay alive.
And presented without blemish. NTA News, authentic and authoritative.
This is the network service of the NTA.
In life, we make decisions, and these decisions we take are decisions that make us or destroy us. Happiness is obviously a choice we need to make. You decide to be happy, or you decide to wallow in self-pity and just remain in that dark mood. We all face challenges, but how we handle those challenges is what makes us different. Today on Against All Odds, we have a young man who actually became blind at a certain point in his life. We find blind people every day. But what makes him different? Of course, he has refused that blindness will not determine how he will spend his life, what will make him happy or sad. And so Shanko Alhaji has picked up the pieces of his life together. He's a comedian, he's a radio presenter. Smiling, he's married, and he's happy. There are a lot of things he does that amazes me. Today, we'll bring everything that has to do with Shanko Alhaji right to your doorstep via Zoom, all the way from Ogbomoso. My name is Toshma Pius Ikirafi. Don't go away. We will be back very shortly.
This is Against All Odds.
Shanko Alhaji. Yeah. It's good to have you on Against All Odds. You're looking good.
Thank you very much.
So it's good to have you on Against All Odds.
Thank you, Joshua.
Ìyá ọkọ nà mí, bàbá ọkọ nà mí, bàbá ọkọ nà mí. N ò léèyàn nílé wa, bàbá kan nà mí. This one here.
Ọmọ ti pa ní.
Èsàrù afọ́jú. Àṣìntòótọ́ ni báfọ́jú bá rọ kòkò nílé ìdáwà bí ọ̀bá ní dráìvà. Afọ́jú ra ọkọ̀ o, ọ̀fẹ́ wa mọ́tò yẹn. Ìwọ ni òfẹ́ kúkú gífà.
You first a comedian before radio presentation, or were you first a radio presenter before a comedian?
Let me say, my presentation really leads to my, to the comedian. I love the way people are presenting on radio, and I have that determination that one day will be one day I will be like them. Then what I did is that I just got one big radio like this. Then, as a blind person, we do have what you call midget or recorder that we normally use to record our notes. And I really make use of that recorder. I always play music. As I'm playing music, I always turn it down. Are you getting it? I'm acting as if I'm in the studio. Okay. Are you getting it?
Yes.
So then, that's why I now got to know that, yes, I can. In fact, I can present before I got to the radio station.
How did you find yourself in the blind world? And what was the cause for this blindness?
Well, let me be sincere with you. We are 6 in number from my parents, but I'm the only person that got blind.
This is Against All Odds.
Adebayo Ayontola, known as Shankar Alhaji, was born into the family of Mr. and Mrs. Stephen Ayontola on the 27th day of December 1980 in Oyo State, Nigeria. His first eye operation was when he was 7 years, after which his sight was okay. He attended Orioke Primary School in Ogbomosho and Orioke Community Secondary School. While in SS3, Shankar Alhaji's sight started failing again.
So when they now discovered that your eyes were bad and you couldn't see, especially when you were about to write your SSCE, what measures were taken?
Let me give kudos to my parents because they really tried a lot. No parents really want their children to become blind. When a pastor or a man say a prayer that you will not blind, though, people will not, they will raise their voice, Amen, amen, oh. Because they know that being in total blindness is not so easy. My parents didn't want to agree with them that can I take my child to the blind school at that particular time. So later, they now told my parents that the simplest way for them to allow this guy to continue his education is just to let him go to the blind school where he can really perform excellently. So that one led me to the Oyo State School for the Blind in Ogbomosho.
So he was advised to go to a blind school where he can learn to read and write in Braille. It was not a funny pill for Shankar's parents to swallow, as it was very heartbreaking to hear that their child was blind.
In fact, that the first day they introduced me to that Braille, and I said, "What is this? This thing is just like what do you call it? A drop of gari, because that Braille is just a dot like this." You told me that a blind man cannot use his eyes to read again. Then the simplest way is to make use of Braille. when they introduced that thing to me, I find it difficult. Let me be sincere with you. But thank God they introduced me to a special class. That special class means where I can be oriented how to make use of Braille and typing. By the time I finished with that Braille and typing, they now said, have you ever seen a blind man in Nigeria being a medical doctor?
None that I have seen yet.
Yeah. So, can you allow a blind man to inject you?
I don't think so.
So then they now told me that you said want to be a medical doctor. So there might not, especially in Nigeria here, there might not be equipment for a blind man to be a medical doctor. So that one led me to cross to the art class.
It's not easy for a man who has seen the world before.
Ask me that it's not easy for somebody who can feel a beautiful flower, beautiful environment, big things, and that person now got blind and accident. It's not easy. Let me be sincere with you. Let me ask you a funny question now. I think when you are in the room now, and then the light now went off like that. Will you be able to cope?
I used to shout. I'll say, "Oh, NEPA!"
It's not easy because by the time I got blind, almost all my friends ran away from me. It was only my parents and my younger one and my sibling that they do pay me visit. The life I've stood, I didn't even find it easy. Let me be sincere with you, because I always dress properly. I that always going out in a neater way. At times, when I want to go to a party, so I do go to the party by myself before. So I will just need to get somebody to lead me out. When I want to write something, or I want to read something, I will just have to get somebody to get me reading. When I want to do so many things that I've been doing by myself before, so I need to get somebody to help me do. So let me be sincere with you. At that particular time, things is not true. It's not so easy. Not so easy. The downfall of the man doesn't mean the end of such person's life. Personally, I developed myself to become what I really become now. Don't forget, I told you that by the time I got blind, I didn't have anybody around me.
Yes.
So I listened to radio. I listen to radio. Then whenever I think I will just take my recorder, record so many things. So being blind helped me a lot to do more research.
ọmọ tètè rè dúdú lánàá tètè rè bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí dúdú ẹ kíyèsí ó ti mu gbó tí mu sìgá o. ọmọ tẹ́yìn rẹ̀ funfun tẹ́lẹ̀ tẹ́ ní ọ̀fẹ́ yín tẹ́yìn ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí pọ́n yín tí mu gbó mu sìgá o.
So at what point did you now decide that it was presentation that was it for you?
When I got admission to Federal College of Education, whenever I'm talking, people will be laughing, they will be laughing. And I think that, so am I falling to the extent of talking and people will be laughing like that? So there was a guy in my hostel. So we used to talk together, chat together. That guy said, Charco, you don't need to deceive yourself. Being in College of Education might not even help you. Better go and develop you as you develop yourself. Better go and find a better place where you can be presenting all what you are performing here. That's why I now decided to be a radio presenter.
Atalẹ̀ ní gbogbo wa mọ̀ sí jíjà. Bó láti ásẹ́ẹ̀tì irinṣẹ́ ìlú nìyí o.
His journey into the art world was inspired by his new desire to become a presenter. Shanko Alhaji noticed that he was actually very funny. When he talked, people laughed. And then, gradually, the desire to become a comedian also set in. And so it worked for him hand in hand.
So far, so good. How has your journey been as a radio presenter? You understand, especially in a competitive world where people don't expect that somebody with disability too is a human being, and they just. So how are you being addressed? What has your work relationship been so far?
Let me be sincere with you. I really enjoy myself because I personally like competing with people, especially those who can see. Yes, because I know that disability is not an ability. People do find it difficult. Whenever I'm presenting, they do find it difficult to know that I'm a blind person.
máa sọ fún wa pé láǹfààní láti wò wá live and direct lórí Facebook Shanko.
How do you get your inspiration to make sure that you keep your market alive?
A blind man that cannot see, so they don't have time to see a beautiful lady around. I do tell my people that when God comes now, a blind man will be the first person to get to the heaven, because all those things that you people used to see, you don't see it.
This is Against All Odds.
You present a lot of programs, okay? Can you share some of these programs you do with us?
Yes, I have so many programs in different radio stations. I'm presenting in a radio station, Inspiration FM in Ibadan, Ilorin, Radio Parrot FM in Ogbomoso. Then there's a program titled Agawakura. It's a very popular program. There's a program Kuma Lobe. There's a program that I titled Alerebe. There's a program that I titled Lefe Lawa. I have so many programs designed. Different states with different programs, different radio stations with different synopsis.
Shanko is not just a fulfilled presenter and comedian. He is happily married to a woman who adores him and respects his disability. A woman who, against all odds, fought her way to marrying him and staying with him.
How did you now meet this beautiful lady? Do you know your wife is beautiful?
Yes, but people do say it. I don't know. I'm a blind person.
Blind man, Shanko. You couldn't see her. You didn't know what she looked like. You only heard her voice. Yeah. So what attracted you to her?
No, don't forget, I told you something earlier that it's not easy for people with disability, especially for a blind man, to get a wife. I'm telling you what we people with disability, what we do pass through whenever we want to get married.
Iyawo, you saw all the men, but is this blind man you decided to spend forever with? Why?
I wonder.
I can say that this is actual thing that I see in him that make me to accept him as my husband. Let's just say that everything that happened, God knows everything. And we, the woman being, we are the architects of our life. Because everything I'm doing, let me say in age, I'm small to it. But I can say that it's God.
Now, how has it been so far so good? Are you proud of him? Do you feel ashamed to go with him to some places? Tell us how married life has been with this young man.
To start with a blind person is not easy. But by understanding everything, even let me say my husband is not blind. Let me say I'm married to someone that is sighted like me. When you are in marriage, if you don't have understanding, let me say understanding is the bedrock of a home that want to stand. So everything we are doing, we understand each other. I understand him, he understands me too. So that's it. So coping with him is by God's grace. Sometimes he may do some things, I'll be like, oh my God. But I'll just wait with that. It's normal thing. So we continue the life. The journey has been sweet. Let me say with him, I'm enjoying it. I can't say, I never used a day like this to regret that, oh, why did I marry this man? Never in my life. I always happy. I'll be looking at him, sometimes I'll be smiling. He did not see me, but within me, sometimes I used to tell him, my dear, this and that is God, not by power. Because let me say, what I went through with my parents, that one is enough for me to back out. Without even staying, looking back. But my decision, I did not change my decision. I stand by my mind and I stand by my words that because then we met and we talked to me. He told me that, hey, you two now are here telling me there is no problem, I will stay with you. You two, very soon you do like other ladies. They will come, they will be pretending that they love me. But when time comes, they like, Shanko, I don't know how I will explain this thing to my parents. I answered them like, Shanko, I call him Adebayo, I promise you, no matter what happens, no matter what I face, even with my parents, because I know this battle is my battle, and I need to fight it. And I try my best, and God helped me to fight the battle. I know that this is not easy, but I will try my best. I will stay with you.
Will I say this is love or this is understanding? Because they say love is not enough. But Shanko, how do you feel with this amazing woman by your side?
You know, I always give thanks to God that give her to me. Though we passed through so many challenges, as she just said, especially from our parents. Whenever I hear her voice, whenever she's with me, I always feel happy.
When we asked him his saddest day, Shanko Alhaji revealed to us that it was on the day he got married. Wow! One will think it's the day he lost his sight. But on the contrary, he said no. It is the day he got married. And the reason was because he had always looked forward to a large societal wedding where his in-laws would be all around him, his friends and families. But sadly, his wedding had to be low-key because he wasn't happy the fact that his in-laws refused even to the very day of the wedding to attend his wedding with their daughter after all the pleading and everything. But well, life goes on.
What does the future hold for the two of you?
The future is bright.
Sure.
Because we have not started, we just start. And I know we are going to the higher place.
We just begin the journey now.
The journey is just beginning. So, let me say I married my man, he decided then, and an accident occurred, and he got blind. So, where am I going to put it? And my friends said that they are fighting that I married a blind man. Accidentally, he got blind. What are we going to do? We can't do anything. That is God. So you should accept your fate. You should not help God. You can't help God do anything. It's only God that can help you to do what you want to do.
Now, let me be sincere with you. She's the one driving me to Ilorin, to Ibadan, anywhere I want to travel to. She's the one driving me. So she makes that future, what you call, real, the way I really want my future to be.
This is Against All Odds.
So I'm sure there are challenges that you're facing right now and you want to share it with us for someone to be able to reach out.
People with disability at large we are facing is that People find it difficult to know our ability. I mean, to all people with disability. I personally, it's not easy for somebody to say, help me, please kindly join me to quickly go to this place. Traveling up and down to get somebody to get good car, those things, they are what I'm really facing now. People to know my ability in different radio stations that I'm applying to is another thing.
Shanko, thank you very much. By the grace of God, I'm sure Nigerians watching will like you and decide to also see how they can come in to helping you.
Wow, it's been an amazing time with Shanko Alhaji on Against All Odds, together with his beautiful wife. What do I call that? Do I call it love? Do I call it commitment? Or just something made from heaven? His wife is simply amazing. And with that kind of woman by your side, you will agree with me as a man that you will definitely kill the highest offense and kill a lion for her. That is what Shanko desires to do. He's limited in some aspects and needs help. Everybody needs help. We all need help one way or the other, no matter how determined and no matter how strong we are. We need a shoulder to lean on. And Shanko also needs a shoulder to lean on. What we get to do on Against All Odds is bring the stories right to your doorstep and maybe just touch a heart to help these persons in one way or the other. And also help you to draw hope and inspiration from them. Thank you for staying with us on this episode of Against All Odds. Hopeful we'll do this again, same time next week. My name is Doshima Pius Ikerefe. Keep watching.
Ṣàkólóní Ọlọ́run tó tóbi, Ọlọ́run bàbá Ọlọ́run tó tóbi. Ọlọ́run bàbá ayé ọba ó fọ́run ṣe gbé ayé ọba ó fàyè sàpótí tíṣẹ́ Ọlọ́run tó tóbi o Ọlọ́run bàbá. Èmi gbé ọ̀gá o lórí ìsàkó wa mo gbé ọ̀gá lọ́jọ́ ìbí tọ́jọ́ òní.
In handing over the documents to the Federal Prime Minister, Alhaji Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, Her Royal Highness handed over sovereignty to a new nation. This was the dramatic takeover by the new nation's own green and white flag.
Independence for Nigeria in 1960 is imperative. But independence for Nigeria as a corporate entity is not enough. The peoples of Nigeria must at the same time be guaranteed their freedom. We must ensure that in an independent Nigeria, individual citizens throughout the land enjoy liberty and equality under the law. There must be one Nigeria with one constitution and one law for all. Let us therefore, Mr. Chairman, sir, close our ears to the counsel of despair, which says that we cannot hear at this conference agree on a constitution.
It makes no difference to me really whether I win this election or not. I want you to believe me, and I'm not talking politics. For 25 years of my life, I fought for the freedom of Nigeria. Nigeria will attain independence on October 1, 1960. So it makes no difference to me whether the Sardauna or Balewa or Chief Awolowo or myself will become the first prime minister. So long as Nigeria is free, I'll be satisfied.
Mr. President, last Saturday, the country which I have the honor to represent, the Federation of Nigeria, became independent and assumed the rights and the responsibilities of a sovereign state. Today, Nigeria has been admitted into the United Nations organization and assumes still more responsibilities. On behalf of my countrymen in Nigeria, I thank you all most sincerely for accepting us as a fellow member in this organization.
NTA, you can't beat the rich.
Labour suspends planned strike. NCC pledges provision of robust ICT infrastructure. CBN recovers over 400 billion naira from agric loans. NNPC reassures on forex availability for oil marketers. Oil slips as surge in virus cases cloud demand recovery. This is Business Express reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Benny Adams, your guide. months to the takeoff of the African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA, Nigeria has ramped up activities to take full advantage of the Continental Trade Integration Initiative. This is coming as strategic stakeholders from private and public sectors met in Abuja to firm up plans for Nigeria's full participation in the AfCFTA. In the financial sector, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, is pushing for the integration of the 700 banks in the continent. Director of Monetary Policy Department of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Hassan Mahmoud, said there are about 700 banks in Africa. However, they only account for about 5% of the global banking network. Continental integration in the banking system is key to strengthen the sector as a whole in Africa. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, says it has recovered 400 billion naira out of the 600 billion naira which it had given out to private sector and state government to enhance large-scale farming in Nigeria under the Commercial Agri-Credit Scheme. The CBN's Director of Development Finance Department, Philip Yila, said the intervention scheme had been successful in loan recovery, noting that the initiative is apt and timely in ensuring food sufficiency in Nigeria as borders and international trade came to a halt during the peak of COVID-19. While noting that the credit scheme is to fast-track food processing across the entire value chain, he added that the Apex Bank has disbursed more than 600 billion naira and more than 400 billion naira given at 9% interest rate but reduced to 5% has been paid back. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, has given assurance that the Central Bank of Nigeria would make forex available to oil marketers. The Group Managing Director of NNPC, Mele Karis, stated this at a downstream stakeholders meeting in Abuja. The NNPC boss noted that concrete steps have been taken to address the main concerns of marketers, especially the issue of availability of forex, stressing that the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has already taken the first step of marginal all forex windows to have a united exchange rate. Oil prices dipped on Monday as rising coronavirus cases upset hopes for a smooth recovery in fuel demand, with the main crude benchmarks on track for their first monthly falls in multiple months after last week's slips. Brent crude fell 23 cents to $41.69 a barrel after dropping 2.9% last week. U.S. West Texas Intermediate was at $40.04 a barrel, down 21 cents following a 2.1% decline last week. Gold holds steady as dollar rally holds. Eyes on Trump-Biden debate. The Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, says the commission will continue to promote and facilitate expansion of robust broadband information and communication technology, ICT infrastructure, across the country for the rapid development of the nation's digital economy. Executive Vice Chairman of NCC, Professor Umar Ambata, gave the assurance in a statement signed by Director, Public Affairs Department of the NCC, Dr. Ikechukwu Adinde. The statement adds that the Commission has surpassed the 30% broadband penetration target in 2018. Ambata observed that through various policy initiatives, broadband penetration has further increased to 42.02% as of July 2020, noting that this has laid a solid foundation to drive the national efforts at achieving the new 70% broadband penetration target set in the Nigerian National Broadband Plan 2020 to 2025. 5 million persons living with disabilities are being targeted to benefit from the empowerment scheme launched by the federal government to take 100 million Nigerians out of poverty. Was stress at skills acquisition and capacity training in Abuja.
For maximum success, government intends to use private organizations or NGOs to be able to drive home some of our visions. For this particular program, the main motivators were actually the Federal Civil Service Cooperative Society. These are composition of federal civil staff with disabilities, and we thought they should, because of their previous record, be able to assist government in disbursing, identifying qualified members of the society with disabilities, and changing the right orientation so that they could produce, and of course, having the capacity to access these loans and these monies, which is managed by the Police Microfinance Bank, and we as government release it through the central bank, just like in any other program and projects of the federal government. With everybody's hand on deck, we'll be able to raise enough food that will feed our people. Then finally is to develop a mind of people in Nigeria who don't feel neglected, but who have access to finance and who can produce and become income generators to meet their family needs, their community needs, and of course, have enhanced dignity and respect from society and from men and women like us.
I'm a civil servant. I work with the Ministry of Women Affairs, and I have a farm. I cultivate cassava in my small way, and also I cultivate cocoyam, and also vegetable. That's why I cultivate in my own small way. So this is a great opportunity and privilege. After being trained, I'll be empowered to do more, and also to make me to create more employment for our people.
I'm into poultry farming, so I train fowl. Especially this time around that we are moving towards December period, this is the best time for somebody to even train fowl. So if you buy broiler now, in the next 3 months you can sell it for December and Christmas period. I think that one is really another gain. If the money can be distributed yearly before the time, so.
To shed more light on what the fund will do for those with special needs in acquisition of skills, as well as achieving food security, is the Chairman, Rehabilitation Committee, Federal Civil Service Staff with Disability Cooperative, Abdurauf Ilyasu. You are welcome to Business Express.
Oh, thank you. You are welcome.
Well, beautiful initiative, but why is it centered on the federal civil servants?
Thank you very much. 2002, the federal government gazetted the National Policy on Cooperative Development in Nigeria.
Okay.
The program was held at Astan Castina Hall in Kaduna, and after the program, it was promulgated and gazetted. If you study the National Policy on Cooperative Development, we have what we call specialized cooperative, which are the federal civil servants from different ministries, parastatals, and agencies of government come together to form a formidable avenue for cooperative financing. It is good to channel this microcredits facility through the civil servant. One, they are career civil servant. We believe that anything handled by them will be successful, since the federal government has given them the opportunity to engage in agriculture. When you are a civil servant, you cannot do any other business. But agriculture, you are they permitted.
You're permitted to go into farming or any other
activity.
Agricultural activities.
Exactly.
Okay, fine. Federal government has been rolling out palliatives since the advent of COVID-19 and up to this moment. And part of it is that we have the National Economic Sustainability Plan. Is this part of the funding? And if it is part of it, why civil servants with disability?
Okay, the letter before me now is a letter from the Central Bank of Nigeria, directed to the National Coordinating Chairman, Chief Executive, Federal Civil Service Staff with Disability.
Okay.
What the CBN is saying is that they are saying that the 220 billion the person living with disability has 2% of this money.
Okay.
Which is dedicated to the physically challenged person living with disabilities.
Okay.
And the condition is this. The fund can be accessed by your members.
Okay, before talking about how to access it, and we know you are a cooperative, which means your members are registered.
They are registered.
Which means you know them and they can easily access this. They met some of the criteria for meeting all of this. The question now is, what kind of skills would they be acquiring?
The skill they will be acquiring is strictly on this agricultural empowerment.
Okay.
And the agricultural empowerment is designed under the CBN, CBN microcredit support program.
Okay.
Yes, that is the title of the fund.
Okay, now the CBN gives your members 2% out of the 220 billion. And of recent, we also have the 75 billion that the federal government has granted the Ministry of Trade and Investment.
Yes.
And people with disabilities have also been given 5%. Would you say in this whole package, your constituency has been attended to adequately? And what would you do to ensure that you really live up to expectations by empowering your members and your members get to empower others for us to get to that security we're talking about?
Yes. You know, what we are trying to, what the government is trying to establish is that there's ability in disability.
Sure.
And as to that, the civil servant from different ministry, parastatals, and agency of government coming together to form a formidable avenue, as I've said earlier, for cooperative financing. This fund, which is 2% of 220 billion, they advise that pass your request through participating financial institution, PFIS, that can be money deposit bank. Now, the Nigerian Police Microfinance Bank, we believe they have network, and we have collaborated with them. And the Office of Senior Special Assistant to the President on Disability Matter, headed by Dr. Samuel Ankeli, has collaborated with the office to see that this program logically concluded and properly monitored.
Okay, are all of your members registered? How about those other civil servants who are not registered? Are you making plans to bring them into the fold so that they get to benefit from such?
As the name implies, the name is Federal Civil Servant Staff with Disabilities. The form is open for all civil servants to come as a member of this civil servant cooperative. If you are a career civil servant, you are qualified automatically. And to access the fund is very simple. The central bank has made the conditions so simple. They said, pass your application through the participating financial institution.
Okay, like how much is open for assessing for an individual?
Depend on the feasibility study submitted to the office. If you want to go into poultry farming, if you write your feasibility study like 500,000,
okay.
You are okay. What is important is
maybe
to see
that is for a starter. How
for
about
a starter
someone who is already in the business?
If you are already in the business and you are giving 500,000 from this money and you utilize it well, you have opportunity to access more. Okay. And this will go a long way to prove that there is ability in disability. That is the area we are trying to go.
Okay, at the level of your cooperative now, what activities have they been into? Which of these ventures in the agricultural subsector have they been engaging? And what is how would you assess the progress made that when these monies are released to them is going to grow for us, moving towards attaining the food security we're talking about?
Yes. Actually, I could remember when the federal government sent us to New York City in America to participate in a high-level meeting on disability matter at the United Nations General Assembly meeting, what we discovered that throughout the program, persons living with disability became the first organization to be recognized, but because they fully participated throughout the program. And if our people can demonstrate at international community like this, to come back home, I believe they will perform excellently. And take note that one of the program, we have a very big farm along Nasarawa, along Kefi Road.
Okay.
We planted maize, cassava If you get there, the Federal Civil Service farm is excellent. And some of our members, they are engaged into poultry farming and others. If you study, you cannot believe that they are persons living with disability. So in China, Japan, India, one of the avenue the government is using cooperative society to engage grassroots development.
At the level of cooperative now,
yes.
For agriculture to grow beyond where we are, yes. there is the talk about bringing in ICT, bringing in technology.
Yes,
are you thinking of using technology? You can see the pattern of the rainfall today. Are you considering all these factors?
Yes.
Are you bringing in experts in agriculture to help you grow in bounds?
Thank you very much. That's why you have to appreciate the governor of Central Bank by sending a letter to the Federal Civil Servant with disabilities. Most of them, they are lawyers. And the present president of Federal Civil Servant with disabilities is a deputy director from Federal Ministry of Finance. These people, they are well educated. In terms of technology, they are well equipped. Some of them studying abroad. So being a disabled person does not mean that the brain is not working. Channeling anything through this disabled civil servant can't it done. And I'm telling you, we are going to prove to the federal government that persons living with disabilities in the federal civil servant, they are the best in this agriculture. And if the disability can bring gold to Nigeria during the last Olympic,
yes.
we are going to lead in this agricultural program.
Well, from sports to other sectors. I will
convince the central bank that we are capable. And I, Alhaji Ilyasu Abraham, as the national coordinating chairman, I will prove that there is ability in these people.
Well, we thank the federal government and other partners, the CBN, for considering your constituency. Thank you very much, Abdurauf Ilyasu. It's been nice talking with you.
Thank you. God bless you.
Moving on, fresh loan disbursements expected from the World Bank, African Development Bank, and Islamic Development Bank may raise Nigeria's total public debt stock to 31.69 trillion naira in coming months. Nigeria currently expects about $1.84 billion from the three financial institutions. The DMO, in a report, revealed that the country is still expecting additional disbursements from international financial institutions, a development that would further increase Nigeria's debt. DMO says it expects the public debt stock to grow as the balance of the new domestic borrowing is raised, and expected disbursements are made by the World Bank, African Development Bank, and the Islamic Development Bank, which were arranged to finance the 2020 budget. The dollar hovered near a two-month peak against a basket of currencies on Monday as doubts about recovery persisted ahead of a barrage of economic data and political developments in the United States. Let's now see how the naira is exchanging for other international currencies. The federal government, through the National Bureau of Statistics in collaboration with the World Bank, is conducting a census of businesses across the country with a view to providing a comprehensive list of all businesses in Nigeria towards providing the country with comprehensive data about the economy. Statistician General of the Federation, Yemi Kale, says at the end of the survey in 2 months' time, Nigeria will boast of having an updated data of both formal and informal businesses towards complementing the actualization of government's desire to improve MSMEs for economic development. The national survey was flagged off in Abuja with training of data collectors by the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Budget and National Planning, Olushola Idowu.
The concern for government's economic program is poverty reduction. To make this happen, government will want to have at our fingertips the status of poverty in Nigeria. In the same way, to address the poverty situation in the country, there must be reliable and timely indicators on major sectors of the economy.
That's when policymakers know where all these businesses are, what their primary activities are, and their challenges. That's when they can take decisions to support them. So that's the objective of this exercise, to ensure that the policymakers involved in boosting micro, small businesses have enough information about these businesses so they can, whether you are a policymaker that is trying to boost economic activity to improve these businesses, you can only do that if you know this business, what these businesses are, what they do, what their sizes are, and that's exactly what the benefits of the census is about.
A total turnover of 1.567 billion shares worth 20.559 billion naira in 18,396 deals were traded by investors on the floor of the exchange, in contrast to a total of 1.139 billion shares valued at 12.692 billion naira that exchanged hands last week in 17,109 deals. Bosiri Abel reports.
Last week, investors reacted positively to the slash in monetary policy rate to 11.5% from 12.5% by the Apex Bank. Consequently, the NSE All-Share Index and market capitalization appreciated by 2.92% to close the week at 26,319.34 and 13.7 trillion naira. A total turnover of 1.5 billion shares worth 20.5 billion naira in 18,396 deals were traded by investors on the floor of the exchange. All indices finished higher with the exception of NSE ASM Index, which closed flat. The financial services industry led the activity chart with 1.1 billion shares valued at 9.1 billion naira traded in 9,900 deals. The consumer goods industry followed with 90 million shares worth 1.6 billion naira in 2,715 deals. The third place was the ICT industry with a turnover of 84.6 million shares worth 5.7 billion naira in 771 deals. The top three equities were Sterling Bank, FBN Holdings and Zenith Bank. They mutually accounted for 612.8 million shares worth 4.3 billion naira in 3,739 deals. A total of 119,603 units of exchange-traded products, ETPs, valued at 1.2 million naira were traded in 16 deals, as well as 467 units of federal government bonds valued at 564,073 naira 49 kobo in 5 deals. Summary of price changes show that 35 equities appreciated in price during the week, 28 equities depreciated in price, while 100 equities remained unchanged.
And on the capital market, transactions at the close of Monday trading on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange ended in positive territory. The NSE All-Share Index rose by 0.79% to close at 26,507.84 basis points as traders exchanged 336.8 million shares valued at 4 billion naira in 4,602 deals. Market capitalization stood at 13.8 trillion naira. This is where we end this edition of Business Express. We value your feedback, so keep the comments, observations, and suggestions coming. Be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on the NTA's channel. You can also communicate with us on Twitter, and the handle is NTA News Now. Don't forget to use the hashtag #It'sBizX. Business Express returns Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. I am Benny Adams saying stay safe.